Okay, we're here to analyze the Militello Standard. This is a doctrine designed for nothing less than a fundamental realignment of global sovereignty. Think of it as a blueprint for middle powers trying to navigate a world dominated by one major force. Let's get right into it. This quote, delivered at Davos, is really the philosophical starting gun for the entire doctrine. It argues that the global landscape isn't really a partnership. It's more like a landlord-tenant relationship, where the very idea of integration has become a tool to keep everyone else in their place. So here's our operational map for today. First, we're going to diagnose the core problem. Then, we'll outline the tactical response. After that, we'll detail the long-term strategic architecture, examine the accountability system that holds it all together, and finally, define the new coalition that this all leads to. All right, first things first, the problem. As this framework sees it, global instability isn't just random chaos. No, it's an imbalance, and it's created by a single super alpha superpower, what they call an apex predator that has, in their view, taken hostile control of the entire geopolitical environment. Now, how this conflict is framed is absolutely crucial. The whole thing uses these biological metaphors. You've got the predator, who is reactive, basically just a slave to its own appetite. And then you have the hunter, who is strategic, patient, and truly understands the terrain. The goal here isn't to match brute strength, it's to completely change the rules of the game. And this predator idea isn't just some abstract concept. It's grounded in what the doctrine calls tangible actions. It points to a 40-year history of economic aggression and a strategic detachment from what's actually happening on the ground. And to get specific, identifying Project 2025 as the administrative blueprint for consolidating all of this power. Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem. Now we move to the tactical response. They call it the Gordie Howe Gambit. If you know hockey, you know the Gordie Howe hat trick. A goal, an assist, and a fight, all in one game. That's the idea here. It's about using asymmetric economic leverage to prove that global integration has to be a two-way street. The response isn't just one big move. It's a carefully choreographed 21-day escalation. Pressure gets applied in waves. But then there are these periods of calm, the Sabbaths. Why? To prove who's in control of the switch. The windows of predictability just keep shrinking, systematically ratcheting up the pressure until the target's entire logistics chain is paralyzed. And these tactics escalate week by week. Week 1 starts with minor annoying hoops, like suddenly demanding all lumber be metric only. But by week 3, the pressure ramps up to what they call heart attack protocols. We're talking disrupting the physical flow of energy and even using military posturing like submarine pings. The point is to demonstrate absolute sovereign control over your own critical infrastructure. So after tactically proving its point, the doctrine shifts to the full strategic architecture. This is the sovereign shield, a 16-nation bloc that's not just designed to resist the apex predator, but to create a whole new center of economic gravity on the world stage. This alliance is held together by a common framework of 4 pillars, and these cover both the social contract and the economy. Everything from education and healthcare to a currency that's actually backed by physical resources and human capital. The goal is to ensure integrity and shared value across all 16 nations. Now, what's interesting is that the bloc is intentionally made up of members with very different economic scales. You've got South Africa with a 78-to-1 ratio to the U.S. economy, all the way to the UK at 8-to-1. But here's the critical point. Their leverage doesn't come from their GDP. It comes from strategic assets, like Indonesia's nickel or Turkey's control of the Bosphorus Strait. The whole economic foundation of this alliance is something called the Terrist Standard. It's a new global currency designed to completely bypass traditional financial systems. Why? Because its value isn't based on debt. It's derived from a weighted average of the bloc's combined physical resources. We're talking minerals, energy, agriculture, real stuff. And now we get to the linchpin of the entire doctrine. I mean, how do you make sure an alliance like this doesn't just collapse from the inside? The answer is the accountability scale. A system that forces every single leader to have personal skin in the game. This is the pony up protocol. Leaders at every level have to post a huge percentage of their personal net worth as a performance bond. A government contractor, 5%. But a prime minister or a president, they have to post 50%. If you fail to deliver on national integrity, it means personal financial ruin, period. So who judges them? Well, to stop any kind of domestic favoritism, a leader's integrity isn't judged by their own people. It's audited by a rotating jury of their peers from the other 15 nations. They call it the Peer Audit 11. This is all about making sure that judgment is impartial and that the standards of the entire bloc are upheld. And this is where the risk of the elite gets directly linked to the reward for the public. Profits from the bloc's shared resources and, more importantly, the liquidated bonds from corrupt or failed leaders get funneled into what are called individual sovereign accounts, or ISAs, for every single citizen. And they're targeting a 10 to 12% annual return.
The core principle here is just beautifully simple. This system makes sure that the everyday citizen, the truck driver in Cobourg, earns the exact same percentage return as the billionaire on Bay Street. It basically transforms the entire population into direct stakeholders in their own country's integrity.
Which brings us right back to the core philosophy. With that accountability scale locked in place, you can finally create a new kind of alliance, the Master-Hunter Coalition. And this represents a fundamental shift in the very nature of international power. The coalition doesn't see itself as an aggressor, like the apex predator. Instead, it defines itself as a sentinel pack. It acts more like a living reef, a complex, defensive ecosystem. It doesn't need to go on the attack, because any aggressor that tries to take a bite just breaks its own teeth. It wins by being persistent and resilient.
Which, of course, poses the ultimate question that this whole doctrine is built around. Is this the blueprint for the end of the unipolar single alpha era? The stated goal isn't to destroy the superpower, but to restore a global equilibrium where no single country can dictate terms to the rest of the world.
And the doctrine leaves us with this final statement, which is really a call to action. It frames the current geopolitical climate not as just business as usual, but as a harsh season that demands a new, collective way to survive. A fundamental shift from the lone ruler to the persistent pack.